Guys, I've got to tell you, the internal whispers around this team are absolutely screaming right now because some recent decisions have totally blown my mind. I'm talking about who's in, who's out, and honestly, it immediately flipped the warning lights on for me. Then there's this whole situation with our rookie who scared the hell out of everyone, but thank God he's coming back strong. We've also got this wild projection for the defense's future that I honestly saw coming, and on top of all that, there was a major freakout over our offensive leader. The final outcome was a genuine shocker. I'm not gonna lie. What's up, Chargers fans? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Charger. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the Bolts. So, even before we kicked off against the Steelers, Harbaugh decided to scratch some guys, and I've got to tell you, it shocked the locker room in a way very few people expected. The inactive list featured Tony Jefferson and Will Dissly, and honestly, I could kind of understand the Will Dissly situation since Gadsden's been absolutely eating his lunch and Conklin is stepping up big time in the rotation. But still, hearing Harbaugh say that Will Dissly simply hadn't earned the right to be active right now, man, that was a direct, almost brutal message. And with Jefferson, that stung even more for me. The guy had just gotten called back up to the main roster. He was having that feel-good moment that we fans love to track, and then boom, he's inactive again. That caught me completely off guard because it looked like he was about to cement his spot. That's where the name RJ Mickens pops up, and I've got to say, I'm impressed. He's been playing with an unexpected consistency for where he is in his career, sharing the field with Elijah Molden and Derwin James without looking lost for a second. Are you kidding me? The impact of all this goes way beyond just one game, in my opinion. Harbaugh made it crystal clear that this fight for snaps is going to stay heavyweight until the end of the season, and it changes the entire defense. Mickens' presence shifts how the secondary rotates. It gives Molden more freedom to attack certain concepts, and it lets Derwin James play with that aggressive, heat-seeking missile style that I absolutely love watching. Practically speaking, this new depth gives us a ton of weapons to face different offenses without having to scramble and improvise in a panic. And on offense, even with Will Dissly's status changing, having Gadsden explode and Conklin maintaining a steady level makes that whole group way more versatile. And seeing Harbaugh talk straight gives me that sense of security that he has a clear plan even when I'm scratching my head over certain calls. The fight for spots is only going to intensify over these next few weeks. You snooze, you lose. Whoever steps up is going to be a huge part of the plan for the rest of the season. So hit the comments and tell me what you thought of these choices, if you would have done things differently, or if you agree with this iron fist approach. I want to see your opinion. Now hold on to your helmets because this next piece of news, I guarantee, affected a lot of hearts this past Sunday, mine included. When Gadsden went down grabbing his leg, my first reaction was that heavy silence. I was watching and thinking, oh no, not again. He walked off looking uncomfortable, tried to stretch it out, tried to get back in, but the staff decided to hold him. At that moment, I thought the major problem was brewing. The camera showed him favoring his right leg, and I was already picturing MRIs, a week on the sidelines, maybe even more. But then on Monday, a better light started to shine. When Harbaugh showed up to talk, the atmosphere completely changed for me. That supposed knee scare turned out to be just a nasty contusion on his thigh. In the end, it was only a bruise. That's insane. This completely flips the script for me. First, because our offense relies heavily on his presence right now. This kid has become that safety blanket for Herbert, especially on third downs and in clutch situations. Without him, the playbook shrinks a bit. Defenses get bolder with pressure, and the offensive flow suffers. So getting the announcement that he would not only practice on Wednesday, but practice fully was a giant relief. Harbaugh didn't hide anything. He said straight up that the kid is fine, said he wanted to return to the game itself, and that the decision to bench him was more about caution than major concern. That sends a powerful message to me. The team believes in the kid, trusts his preparation, and wants him fully healthy for this upcoming brutal stretch. As a fan, I'm blown away by his maturity. The guy arrived as a rookie, but he talks, moves, and reacts like a veteran. He doesn't disappear from the game. He doesn't get intimidated. He doesn't get lost on the reads. Here's the crazy detail that gets me. He's producing consistently. When I look at his recent run, over 60 yards per game in the last month, I see that his curve is only going up. That monster game against the Colts with 164 yards showed me he already has the potential to dominate games single-handedly. Sometimes I forget he's only in his first year. Herbert trusts him in a way that doesn't happen by accident. and the staff sees him as a centerpiece, not a gamble. Even after leaving the game, he wanted back in. That speaks volumes to me. This quick return changes how Jacksonville will prep their defensive plan. If they thought he was out, they could focus on other areas. Now, with him cleared, they have to divide their attention. That creates openings, forces adjustments, and creates space for plays that were a little too sticky in recent weeks.
While I was still processing the news of the week, one of those ridiculously early mock drafts started circulating, and in it, they had us selecting Caden McDonald, the Ohio State defensive tackle, who is getting attention for the way he locks down the middle of the line. Honestly, when I look at what we've done in the last year, relying on short contract veterans, trying to squeeze the maximum out of the group with Minter adjusting the scheme, I can understand why a name like this pops up early. The start of the season had some holes, the run defense was up and down, but it's more stable now. Even so, the need is definitely there. McDonald fits that profile of a big, strong guy who jams the center of the line, something I've been screaming for. The impact of a pick like that would be enormous in my view. First, because it directly changes the defensive structure. With a player of his caliber occupying 2 blockers, you free up the rest of the guys to attack the backfield with more freedom. Minter likes to use heavy rotation. He likes to move the interior guys to create different angles, and someone like McDonald fits perfectly into that blueprint. Plus, you solve a long-term problem: stability in the middle. He wouldn't arrive to be a pass-rushing star, that's not his game, but he would arrive to deliver that dirty work that many people don't notice but completely changes the lives of the linebackers behind him. His stats have exploded this year, way up from his previous number. That shows me real evolution, not luck. Now, speaking as a fan, I'm torn. On the one hand, I love the idea of fortifying the interior. I've seen seasons where we struggled to stop simple running plays, and that cost us games. Putting in someone who arrives with a high grade in that aspect is tempting. But at the same time, the draft is always a roller coaster. You never know how a player is going to react when he's facing NFL offensive lines every Sunday. Even so, from what I've seen in McDonald, the guy is consistent. He doesn't get lost in traffic, he doesn't lose his gap, he doesn't miss a basic read. And when he finds the runner, he destroys the play. That kind of instinct isn't common for such a young player. If he keeps this pace, he might not even be available when we pick. Now, hold on tight because this last piece of news involves the guy who conducts everything in the field. In the game against the Steelers, Herbert took more hits than he should have. There were plays where he got up limping. There were hits that looked like those tackles the league has been penalizing heavily. With every hit, I could feel myself holding my breath. What made it even tenser for me was that it wasn't an isolated incident. It was several hard contacts, the kind that accumulate and leave your body marked the next day. But then came the answer I needed to hear. Harbaugh appeared before practice and dropped that Herbert was going to participate normally in Wednesday's activities. No limitations, no special adaptations. He just spoke like, it's all good, move on. That brought an absurd amount of calm to my whole environment. The impact of this update is gigantic for me. First, because Herbert is the engine of our offense. When he's not physically 100%, the whole system feels it. The reads get quicker under pressure, his movement in the pocket decreases, and the play calling has to be more conservative. But by the looks of it, none of that should happen this time. There's another layer to this news. The offensive line is likely getting reinforcements. Hart returned to practice and has a chance to play, and Pipkins, who arrived recently, is getting more and more adapted to the scheme. That completely changes the protection dynamic. If Herbert is already showing new mobility this year, imagine him with more stable protection. It's this kind of detail that can decide a tight game, especially against defenses that like to send creative pressure like Jacksonville's.